Hi, welcome to a new episode in the Internet Surfer, hosting the most horror and creepiest stories from Reddit. Please don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy.
Don't flush the toilet. A long horror story from Reddit Nosleep. Seriously, please read this if you live in an apartment complex. I know this will seem humorous to many of you and others will simply dismiss this as fantasy. But let me assure you, I've seen what happens with my own eyes. And if I could scratch out the memory of what happened that day, I swear I'd claw out my brain with my bare hands. You all know that I can't disclose the address of the apartment that I work for. It's not just posting rules that I'd be breaking. It's also the contract I signed with the landlord. There are two very unusual clauses in it. The first is that I never use the bathroom in the basement. The second is that I never flush that toilet. Even if I don't use it. Don't flush it out of curiosity. Don't clean it. Don't make it dirty. Don't let anyone near it. And don't let anyone flush it. I literally laughed aloud. Then I looked at the financial penalties to see if I broke those two rules and took it more seriously. I wanted the job. The salary is more than I expected, and I enjoy working as a handy person. I was offered the job and wasn't even going to mention those two odd clauses when the landlord brought the topic up. You read the part about the toilet in the basement? Yes, I did, and I'm satisfied with the private bathroom that comes with my office, thank you. I see no need to use the one downstairs. The landlord leaned across his desk and stared at me with his dark, black eyes. Flushing that toilet is a death sentence. Do you hear me? If you are going to work here, you are going to help make sure no one else gets killed. He was spooking me out. I had to ask, wait, someone died from flushing a toilet? Not just one person. Over the years, half a dozen people have died because of that specific toilet. One of the victims, the last one, happened on my watch. The police filed his death as an unsolved crime, just like the others dating all the way back to, well, back a long time. My God, I said. Is there a reason why you haven't gotten rid of it? His eyes changed. The intensity was gone. He looked scared. I can't remove or alter the toilet in any way. It's in my contract, he said softly and leaned back into his chair. I didn't know what that meant, but I really wanted the job and didn't want to talk about this strange topic anymore. I can handle not flushing one toilet in the entire world. I assured him that I would never break my contract with him. He offered me the job. A year later, the toilet found a way to get my attention. Up till then, we had no problems. I had been down there 2-3 times a month to do small tasks or stack stuff. The basement seems much larger than all the other floors, and the bathroom is a small closet-sized room in the farthest corner from the stairs. The elevator doesn't even come down there, as if the building were originally constructed to conceal the underground cavern. I was unloading some extra air conditioning filters along the wall when I noticed a red mark on the floor. It was blood. One of my rat traps was missing. I had placed a few of them around the basement when I found rat turds earlier that month. The blood trail led me into the depths of that pit where the lighting is bad. And I knew where it was taking me before my eyes verified it. The blood trail led to the bathroom. There was a small hole between the closed door and the rotted frame. The dying rat had gone through the hole and was in the one place that I feared to go. But I couldn't leave a dead rat in there. It might have stunk up in the basement. That's what I told myself, but I dare confess that curiosity may have the best of me too. I opened the door and stepped half inside while I searched the wall for a light switch. The room was pitch black, making the rest of the basement seem lighter. I was starting to panic when I couldn't find the darn switch when I saw it. I went for it and took one big stride inside the small space and grabbed a hold of the metal chain that hung from the ceiling and yanked on it. Inexplicably, the light above my head still worked as the room lit up. I hadn't realized I was holding my breath until I let out a long sigh of relief. The front and side walls were wood. But the back wall was brick. Old brick with dried globs of mortar that looked like massive lesions. The toilet was also made of bricks. Perfectly carved stones formed a wide base along the floor. There was no lid or back. The disfigured wall appears to have been built after the toilet structure as a back support. The hole in the center of the stone toilet is carved in the shape of a hexagon. The rat's blood trail leads across the floor and ends at the toilet. No trap. No rat. Just blood. I looked around. There wasn't anywhere for it to hide. There's no sink or trash can in there. No toilet paper either. There is only the toilet. I moved closer to see if there was any trace of the rat and trap having gone down the drain. Nothing. I leered into the belly of the toilet. Understand this, at this point, I was not fully in control of myself. It was as if I was slowly fading into a dream and witnessing my actions, not controlling them. I watched my hand reach for the stone lever along the left side of the toilet. It was as wide as a wallet and smooth like marble under my fingers. It's a death sentence, I thought, fighting my way to regain control. The landlord said it was a death sentence. It took all of my might to resist pressing down on the lever. A weaker person would have flushed. I ran out of there and went home early. After I calmed down, I rationalized what happened. I hadn't been sleeping great the last few nights. That's what I convinced myself. No need to freak out and no need to tell the landlord. I just needed rest. That night, I didn't get any. All night long I laid in bed with a disturbing ache in my gut. It was the toilet. I could feel it. Beckoning me. It was 2 weeks before I had the courage to go back down there. The rat's blood was dried up and the light was still on. I pulled the chain, closed the door, and went back to ignoring the toilet. That was my mistake. I didn't realize how hungry it was. My close encounter with it must have increased its longing for a fresh victim. That means I bear some responsibility for what happened to the newlywed couple that recently moved into the building. I liked them very much. Young, energetic and crazy for each other. Even though I only spoke with them a few times while they were in the process of moving in, I could tell that they loved each other. Not as a new couple. As a pair of old souls that had found each other again. Maybe I'm being dramatic given what happened that day. The wife had knocked on my door to say that their toilet had stopped flushing and for their lives, they couldn't get it working again. She seemed embarrassed. I told her I'd be up in a few minutes to take a look at it. She left. I gathered my tool belt and called the landlord. He had told me many times to contact him immediately if there was a toilet-related issue anywhere on the premises. This was my first one. So, I called him and told him the situation. "Stay where you are," he yells into the phone. "I'll be there in 5 minutes." I waited for him by the entrance. When he arrived, we went straight to the newlyweds' apartment and knocked on the door. The wife opened the door with a pleasant expression on her lovely face. But when she saw that the landlord was with me, she suddenly looked guilty of doing something bad. "Oh my gosh," she blurted out. "You got to be kidding me. He got in trouble for that?" The landlord looked at me and I shrugged my shoulders. He turned back to her and said, "I'm here to inspect your bathroom with my maintenance person. I'm not aware of anyone being in trouble. I assume you're talking about your husband?" She giggled but didn't give an answer. She only looked more guilty at something. "Get him, please," he said. "He's not here," she replied, followed by an uncomfortable giggle. "What do you mean? Where is he?" "Well, our toilet broke over an hour ago and he really had to go, so." The landlord suddenly grabbed the woman by her shoulders, startling her. "No. Where is he?" "We're sorry," she said, You made so important about us not being allowed to flush the toilet in the basement when we signed our lease that we thought it had to be a joke. And like I said, he really had to go. The landlord took off running. I instinctively ran behind him as the terrifying thought once again filled my head: flushing the toilet is a death sentence. I was out of breath by the time I entered the basement. The landlord was standing in front of the open bathroom door with his hands up in a calming stance. The light was on and beneath it stood the husband. He had his hand on the stone flushing lever. He looked at us and smiled. "Don't do it," pleaded the landlord. "I have to know," replied the husband, and then he flushed the toilet. That's when the wife entered the basement and stood right behind me. The two of them were so in love. You could tell by the way they held each other's gaze as a loud flushing sound emitted from that bottomless pit, despite the fact that no water circled the bowl. No, the toilet was dry, but still flushing. The four of us stood there without moving. And then I saw it in the husband's face. An expression came over him that I can only describe as pure horror. He was still looking at his wife behind me when the landlord turned to face my direction also and gasped at what he saw. I heard strange sounds behind my back. Wheezing, gurgling, and splashing. I turned around, face to face with the wife. The toilet was draining all of the water from her. She was soaking wet as her pores pushed water out from every cell in her body with such force and speed that a large puddle was forming beneath her feet. Inside, her organs were suffocating and imploding. Her eyes gushed water out as she choked to death in seconds. The sound of the toilet draining slowly came to a silence as the wife collapsed on the wet floor, making a splash. She looked like a dried raisin. Someone started screaming. I think it was the husband. Maybe it was me. Maybe it came from my head. All I know for sure is that flushing that toilet is a death sentence. Not for whoever flushes it. Whoever that person loves the most. That's who dies. The ones we love the most. And it can't be stopped. I know because I was here as the police officers came and declared her death an unsolved case. The landlord and I had to clean the newlyweds' apartment out for new tenants. The husband went mad and checked into a clinic. Their love story turned into a nightmare. And I worry for you out there. Who knows if there are more of them? They might even look different. Maybe they're starting to work together. I need you to believe me when I say that if you live in an apartment and you've been warned, then please, I beg you, don't flush the toilet.
Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. The Internet Surfer on YouTube for more horror and scary stories.